Y'all, the cat has been let out of the bag. We all saw Stephen Miller at Charlie Kirk's memorial, Hail from Athens, Hail from Greece, Hail from Rome, superiority speech. And this is interesting about him because he is Jewish. And yet, when we look at the word Jewish, in front of it is Ashkenazi, which is 95% Jewry. Ashkenazi. So, I never get caught up in the whole thing with, what happened when they were in Germany and all of the stuff that happened to them. It's all a fabrication. It's all a farce. And Stephen Miller is right to push the farce because really at heart, him and people like him are the ones that created the situation in Germany and are exasperating the situation in America right now. But he had some things to say, and he let the cat out of the bag, and he was not supposed to. He called out that Trump has absolute power. Watching the language that he used, because afterwards, after saying what he said, he knew that he slipped up, and in his slip up, he revealed exactly what we've all been thinking, that this is, in fact, a dictatorship. Take a look.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seems, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. Legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller. My question was whether the administration still plans to abide by that judge's order restricting any National Guard troops from being sent to Oregon.
Well, the administration will abide by the ruling insofar as it affects the covered parties, but there are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets under the U.S. military to Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient to federalize the National Guard to carry out a mission necessary for public safety. So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing, murder threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that the number 1 and 2 items in the GOP platform in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program in American history. Since Inauguration Day, there's been an orchestrated campaign of terrorism and violence against ICE officers. Of course, we saw the recent sniper attack against ICE officers. They're publishing their families' photos online. They're threatening them with murder. They're threatening them with death. And they're physically attacking them in the street each and every day. And yet, shamefully, the mayor and governor in Portland and Oregon have refused to render aid, leaving ICE officers to street fight every single night against these terrorists.
You make the claim of terrorist assaults and violence attack over 100 nights, and yet the judge overseeing this case says that that's untethered from reality. And local officials on the ground say that Trump's assertion of what's happening in Portland, that it's war-ravaged and burning to the ground, is far from true. I looked at the police data, and police have made something like 70 total arrests since June.
Stephen Miller said the quiet part out loud. He talked about Trump having plenary authority and then froze mid-sentence on live TV. But why? Because what he was about to say next would have confirmed it. This administration is openly discussing martial law on U.S. soil now. Stephen Miller, Trump's closest policy guy, went on CNN and started to say that under Title X, the president has plenary authority, meaning total unchecked power. Then the feed conveniently glitched. He never finished the sentence. Hell, even CNN uploaded a second version of it. But the message was clear. They believe that Trump can do whatever he wants, ignore the courts, override governors, even send troops wherever he pleases. And right now, we're watching that belief in action. Chicago's already seeing extremely crazy mass protests tonight. People are marching downtown, blocking streets, standing outside ICE facilities because Trump just deployed Texas National Guard troops into Illinois. That's not protecting anything, though. That's intimidation. This is still his test run. And now we're hearing that the White House is having active conversations about invoking the Insurrection Act. Now, they'll deny it and they'll say that's not true, but people inside are hearing things. And for those of you in the back who don't know what this is, it's the law that lets a president use military force against U.S. citizens if he claims that there's insurrection or rebellion. But here's the thing. There is no insurrection. There's just Americans saying no. No to militarized ICE agents, no to political crackdowns, no to fear. Now, Trump keeps trying to sell this lie about Antifa mobs, calling protesters domestic terrorists, but let's be clear, Antifa isn't an organized group. It's not some secret army. It's literally just a term for people who oppose fascism. It's just utter nonsense. And this weekend, thousands of Americans are planning to march in what's being called the No Kings Marches. People across cities, Chicago, D.C., L.A., Austin, are all coming together to remind the government we don't bow down to a king. Now, Trump has told his team he's ready to do what it takes to restore order, law, whatever. He's calling governors and mayors traitors. He's threatening to jail state leaders for refusing his demands. And every time his administration gets caught overstepping, they pivot back to fear, talking about immigrants, crime, Antifa, chaos. It's all propaganda. Plain and simple. They're creating a false state of fear so they can justify taking full control. But let me tell you something. From one veteran to every American watching this. When a government starts talking about using soldiers against its own people, you're not watching Law and Order. You're watching the beginning of an authoritarian rule that thinks they have power over everyone. And the scariest part, it's working. Some folks hear martial law and think it can't happen here, right? But I've seen what military forces look like up close. Once it starts, it doesn't stop. So I'll ask you, how far are we willing to let this go before we all say enough? Would you stand in those No Kings marches? Would you speak up if they called you the enemy for doing it? Because right now, that's exactly what's on the table. What are we doing? Are we going to let our own country try to take us down? This is not who we are.
Now, we have been saying for quite some time that Donald Trump is like Pharaoh, that he is at the stage where the judgments have come upon Egypt 2.0, and he is telling the people of Yah, build more bricks with less straw. He's not just telling us, he's telling the Egyptians, his own people, that they must build more bricks with less straw. He is creating war in America. He is igniting racial tensions in America and dividing people on the basis of racial categories and classes categories. And at the end of the day, he's doing exactly what he was put in office to do, because America must fall. Babylon must fall. Revelation 18. It is absolutely necessary for Babylon to fall and in order for the institution of the New World Order to present itself. People must be exhausted with everything that he is doing so that they kick him out. Y'all, I'm telling you that all of this is predictive programming, but it is instituted for the purpose of breaking this superpower down to its knees. We know the Constitution has been thrown out a long time ago, for real, not just under the Trump administration as they would have you to believe, but under Biden's administration, under Obama's administration, under Clinton's administration. They have done so incrementally. Trump is doing so more openly. But the Constitution has been dead for a long time. What Stephen Miller said in expressing that Donald Trump has this power that is supposed to give him all rights over the American citizens and using the military against the American citizens, he is doing so, gaffing and opening up his mouth ahead of time. But ultimately, him doing that is showing the hidden hand openly. He's showing it. And so we're not the crazy ones, y'all. Exactly what Trump has been doing is exactly what Stephen Miller said, exerting all power as a dictator rather than a president who is supposed to be operating out of the executive branch, but having checks and balances through the legislative and judicial branch. In any case, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you so much, and y'all be blessed.
Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountain. And I've looked over and I've seen the promised land.
Identity. We are bombarded by images of who we think we are every day of our lives. But some people don't think. They know. How about you? I didn't know my true identity, culture, heritage, or roots. As a Christian, I was told the only thing that mattered was my identity was found in Christ. But what about the Asian, Arab, Coptic, or European believer? Do they know their identity? Does it matter to them? How about you? This is who they tell us we are. This is what we know. But is it the truth? Take a journey with me as I share my story of faith and identity and discover why both life in the Savior and identity matters. Why our past, present, and future hinges on the knowledge of our true identity. Why all believers in the Messiah must wake up before it's too late. As the world gets darker, it is time for Yah's people to shine their light. Who you really are is one of the most important questions on earth. It's time you knew.
Israelite. Israelite. Israel. Israelite. Israelite. How to know your identity without losing your Savior.